love that intro. That was
That is
fantastic.
awesome.
Isn't it great? Oh my gosh, everyone. Thank you for joining us today for our I Love Learning podcast. Today is an extra special podcast because it is our Valentine's Day special. And I cannot tell you how delighted I am to have Joe Fernandez join us today because when I met Joe, I can't even begin to tell you the energy that he has just fills the room with love and compassion and joy. Joe Fernandez is going to introduce himself, but I will say he is the regional safety manager at Greyhound. And I am so excited for him to introduce himself. He is has the biggest heart. Joe, thank you for joining me today on my I Love Learning podcast. Welcome.
Thank you, Dr. Gina. Thank you. Hi, everybody. My name is Joe Fernandez. I'm the Southern Region Safety and Training Manager for Greyhound Flicks. Such a great honor to finally make it to the Dr. Gina show. Thank you.
Oh, you bet, Joe. Joe, tell everyone what you're passionate about. Now, I know Joe. I've known Joe, I don't know, like several months now, and I just think he has an incredible story to share, and he has an incredible heart. So share with us, Joe, your passion.
Well, you know, the hat says it all, right? I am absolutely passionate about safety. Now, you know, as we know, I'm in the transit business and I've been in this business for over a decade. And safety is the number one priority. It's on the forefront of my mind every day. And this is what I share with others, right? The passion comes from not the word or the definition of safety. My passion comes from how we can learn to have fun with safety. That's where it comes from. So you might see me one day with a safety first hat. You might see me another day with a leprechaun hat. You might see me another day with a banana suit on.
Whoa!
I can get the message of safety to an operator, then that's how I'm going to do it.
Oh my gosh, if you are going to dress up as a banana, I am totally going to be there that day. I want to see that happen. I never would have thought of hearing you say you would dress up as a banana for safety.
I encourage all of you and all of the listeners, go on my LinkedIn page, start from the beginning, and you will see. I've dressed up in everything from banana suits, leprechauns. We've done party themes. We've done Hanukkah.
Wow.
We've done all type of themes. Why? To get the message of safety to every driver, every day, every time.
Awesome. I love that. I mean, how well articulated. It's incredible. People ask me all the time, Joe, why I have a mascot. And you just kind of summarized it to get people's attention and to have fun and to really connect at a human level. I can really appreciate that. And,
Absolutely.
I wonder, like, you're so driven towards safety. Has there ever been a time in your journey of safety that you've hit roadblocks or hurdles that kind of stood in your way? And then kind of talk about, maybe if you have, how you've kind of overcome those hurdles.
Certainly. I've been around the country. I've worked for, several different companies, right? And I remember getting sent to one base, and the atmosphere at the base wasn't what I was used to, right? So if they weren't trying to hear me, they weren't trying to hear the message of safety. And I had to find how I could connect with them on a human level in order for me to be able to connect with them and share the message of safety. How did I do it? I did it with the most simplistic of things. I saw that they were all coffee drinkers, so I went out and got them big coffee mugs, and I brought some coffee and some donuts, and I made a breakfast right at the bus stop. Simple stuff, right?
Wow.
And all of that probably cost all of $30, but I was able to overcome it. And when I say overcome that hurdle, I'm talking about it was a different atmosphere where I was the baby of the entire base. Everybody was older than me. They were from a different generation. Most were born and raised in that town. And so I had to connect with them some way. And I was able to do so with a simple thing as being kind and bringing them some coffee in the morning. and bringing them some donuts. As kind as that, right? It's the simplest thing.
It's a simple thing. Alessa Wallace is telling us, I don't know if you saw her message, that safety first is a key mindset to have. I love that. That is so critical. And Joe, I think we just need to tell the audience that you work with buses. So like passenger safety. So think of all the people that get on a bus every day. I mean, it's so critical. And the fact that you are so committed and you also do these little things to show everyone that they matter. I think
Well,
that's so incredible about you because you do that.
Thank you. I think, early on in my career, I learned that while we care about the operators, we do, whatever company I'm working for, but we can never forget, ever, that there might be a family member of yours on the bus. There might be one of your children on the bus. There might be another loved one on the bus. So it's essential that as an operator, I'm always thinking, are my kids in the back? Are my family members in the back? So as I'm feeding the message of safety, I always start with the family idea first. Remember that you're driving your family or someone else's. And just connect in the sense of talk to them like real people. Like it's not, they're not in. I've dealt with companies that treat some drivers like they're assets. They're not. We are human. We need that human connection. High fives are amazing. I had one individual at my last post who only gave fist pumps. On the day of my last day at that post, they stopped their bus and they gave me a big hug.
Oh,
for 2 years, and all you gave me was a fist bump, and now you gave me a hug. Blew me away, right?
Oh, you're incredible. I was so glad to meet you in person. Your energy just lights up the room, Joe. I am just so honored to know you and know that there are people like you. There's people listening, like Chelsea Faulkner. She's actually joining us from. I just saw where she was from. I missed it, but she loves the level of empathy of your mindset. But when I met you, I was like incredibly blown away just by how human you really are. I mean, from your core of your soul and what you bring to an organization can inspire anyone. And I love that. So where did that come from? I mean, is that like a book you read, or, I mean, is it something someone said, or where does this come from?
I'll tell you where it came from, right? When I look at your background, Dr. Gina, I see all these wonderful certifications and all of these things, right? Well, I started out as a driver in Brooklyn, who then learned what the difference was between a driver and an operator. And I grew with the business, but here's the key part, right? I never forget that I'm a guy with a GED from a small place in Brooklyn. And now I get the privilege to sit with people like you, Dr. Gina, to sit with CEOs and CFOs, right? And be able to input or have input into a business that is so underrated. We are what makes this country go around, whether it's truckers or bus operators. We make it happen, right? Transit is what makes it happen. And so I never forget where I come from, and I never forget the people who allowed me the opportunity to grow, right? These are important people in my life. Joyce Young in New York, Darryl Goodwin. I'm over a decade in this business, and Darryl Goodwin was my trainer, my instructor in Brooklyn, who still to this day calls me up every Christmas Eve. How's it going? Is everything all right? All these years later, right? And he's trained hundreds of individuals. I've worked for some great individuals, Jack Hampstead, Evan Burak. I work for these people, right? And I make sure that I show up and I give them exactly what they hired me for. I don't change just because I've been here a few minutes. You hired me to be that guy who's engaging with everybody. So what I was on day one when you hired me is the same thing I'm going to be tomorrow, because I believe in what we do. We can't do it without the driver. We can't do it without the operator. And if you can't do it with kindness, you're in the wrong business.
Joe, you have a champion mindset. You know, I wrote the book, but I mean, you were grounded in the principles of neuroscience. Is you control your destiny, right? You found it inside of yourself to be inspired and to inspire others. And so that isn't something that you said that you learned from a book. It's
Yeah.
knowing where you came from and who you are at the core of your soul. And you light up a room wherever you
Thank you.
go. And I am so glad that you're here today on my Valentine's Day special. So this is incredible. Joe, I have a question for you. We're seeing if people have questions, but I have a question for you. What does winning mean to you?
So winning is a text message that I just received last night.
Okay.
In that small operation outside of Houston, there was a gentleman who was working. He was one of the operators there. Text me last night. And on the text, it said this, word for word. Good evening, Papi. I just wanted to let you know that I want to thank you for everything you've taught me and everything you've shared with me. And so I texted him back and I said, what are you talking about? He said, I just got promoted finally to become a training manager. It never stopped. That guy made my whole week, right? He really did. His name is Tony Cortez. He made my whole week. Because I was just sharing with him the knowledge that I had. That was it. And he took it, he ran with it, he studied it on his own, and he did all of those things, and he became to be the individual he is today, right?
Absolutely.
You know, it's just amazing. You know, I'll tell you something else. What winning means to me, also, right?
Mm-hmm.
There's a director that I used to work for. Her name is Monique Avalos, right? Anybody seen
You
her?
talked about Monique.
I have talked about Monique, right? And I remember when I came from New York to Texas, and I didn't have a leadership position then, and I worked underneath her. She was my direct supervisor, and we would work 12, 14 hours a day, and in a very small office. But she shared every piece of knowledge with me. And then in the end, right, we went our separate ways. We grew in our career. And then here we are today. But the lessons that I learned working the 12 and the 14 hours, those lessons that I learned are invaluable. I would have never traded it in for the world. And I still call her at least once a week just to communicate, get feedback, get ideas, share my ideas. So grateful to those that were part of my process of getting to where I am today, right?
Yeah.
Winning means you have to have gratitude. If you have that, if you have gratitude, where is it coming from and why?
I love that. You know, Joe, you're making a difference. Alessa Wells says winning means making a difference. Yes.
Yes.
Somebody made a difference in your life. Somebody made a difference in your life a long time ago, and you continue to pay that forward. And I think that is what true leaders do, right? It's about paying it forward and having gratitude in those moments. Chelsea said, winning to me is about inner alignment, freedom from negative mindset, and refusing to settle for anything for less for myself and my team deserves.
That's
Yes.
correct. That is 100% correct, Chelsea. You know, there was a leader who once told me, I need less New York. And I said, isn't that interesting? New York is why you hired me, right? New York is where I was born and raised. And it's that type of mindset that has ensured that I grow in my own career, just being me. I can't be anybody else but me, right? Now I work for one of the most iconic companies in the industry. And I'm happy to share every little bit of my New York. I'm happy to share every little bit of my knowledge. I'm happy to share all of my connections. This is the last place I will work. Absolutely.
I love that. I was just telling you, I landed in Miami and I saw a sign. with a little gray, is it Greyhound? And it was like, yeah, but I don't think they even had Greyhounds. They were, and I probably should, maybe Greyhound should look into this, but it's all over the airport and it means bus. You know, it's so incredible. You know, I think, you know, the thing that someday you should write a book, Joe. I'll help you when you're ready. You should write about, call it Be New York, whatever we call it or whatever, but you are enough. I mean, that's the thing. You are enough. And what's inside of you is so incredibly special. And each one of us has that inside of us. We just have to find our true self so that we can give off that energy. Yeah.
You know, and to piggyback off that, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, you know, I have a wonderful older daughter who is very professional and is always giving me ideas, and we always run ideas by each other, right? She's a young college educated woman, and she has told me that before. She says, Pop, you could sit with everybody else, no matter if you don't have the degree. And so I learned, I struggled through that, right? That was one of the things I struggled with. But today I sit with some of the most collegiate men and women on the planet. Like, you know, who would have thought, right? I'm just humbled, right? Like, you know, in New York, we often say, I got a guy. Well, you know what? I do have a guy. I have a gal. I have a doctor. I have a CFO. I have those individuals in my life now. But all of it couldn't have happened if someone didn't take a chance on me. All of it couldn't have happened if I would have changed so that I can impress others. I'm not changing for nobody. I'm passionate about safety. This is who I am. This is what I bring. And if I can make just one operator safer today, then I've done my job.
Yes, absolutely. Definitely be who you are. Living by your true self like opens up so many opportunities. And that's the key, is to always live by your true self. And you know, Joe, I think I've told you this, and I talk about this on all of my podcasts, but a few years ago, and actually I heard about a story just a few weeks ago about a driver who just couldn't go on with their life. And this isn't something that's specific to drivers, but you know, there's a lot of people who've lost their passion or lost their way. And I know, you know, there's been times that all of us have lost our way, right? So what advice would you give to someone who's struggling today, who's feeling like they might not be able to go forward, or they don't know where to go, or if they've lost their passion? What advice would you have for them?
So actually, I gave this advice out not too long ago, right? An operator in Austin who now is my dear friend, you know, he wanted to give away his career, right? The guy's been doing it for over 25 years. And so I simply told him this. I asked a simple question, which was, why did you get into this business? And he proceeded to tell me about a personal matter regarding a family member who needed the services that he provides today. And I said, so you're telling me that now you're going to give up on your family, right? More importantly, are you then telling me that after 25 years in the business, you're not only going to give up on your family member, but the passengers and their families that you have positively affected by being able to transport them? And he sat down and he smiled at me and he said, I don't want to talk to you no more, Joe. I'm going back inside. And he's still doing what he does. Thank God.
Oh, yeah.
I think, you know, we all go through certain phases in our life. I know I have been through phases in my life and my career where I said, man, you know, I'm done. You know, as recently, you know, you and I had talked and I was, you know, in between employment for 79 days, right? And I make a point of bringing that up because for 79 days, I thought each day, man, that's the end of something that I love to do, right? And then just by chance, somebody was looking at my LinkedIn and, hey, when can you come and see us? And I tell you that as soon as I heard who it was and what the company was, I didn't hesitate. I flew out, and next thing you know, here I am again,
Yeah.
for an iconic company. Like,
I will say this about your journey though, because you and I chatted and texted, quite often through that. And I will say this about you, your resiliency is something that is so admirable, and your energy in the darkest days of that time, you always stayed positive. And I think that's important for people to understand. It wasn't all rainbows and flowers during that 79 days,
yeah.
right? There were tough days and days you didn't know. And the thing is, you kept moving forward, you kept being positive, you kept going, and you kept believing in yourself. And I think a lot of times, right, people stop believing, and you have to believe what's true to you and your passion, and keep going for it, because only you are going to stop the journey. Only you hold yourselves back.
And I think it's important, right, that one mentioned specific to those dark days, like you called them. I wasn't arrogant enough to think I could do it on my own. Absolutely not. I reached out to all of my network, all of my friends, all of the individuals that I've known in the business, and said, hey, not only on social media platforms, but the call. Hey, I'm available. Just keep me in mind, right? Because it's important that when we go through these tough times, that we don't do it on our own. We don't. It's important that we reach out, talk to someone. Let's be honest with someone and say, man, I need help. I need help. And I was honest. I was honest with you. I was honest, with my children. I was honest with my significant other. And through it all, my fiance stood by my side, just encouraging me every day. My daughter stood by my side. I had you by my side. I had all these amazing people. And through that, I wound up traveling the country 3 or 4 times, right? We were going to meet one time in California, and I got to travel the country doing what I do best, doing what I love to do. And that's speaking about and being a part of the safety movement.
Yes, absolutely. I love that. Well, speaking of safety, I have a question. So this season, I have my guest asking of the next guest a question, and my guest from the previous week asking you a question. So last week I had Randall McNeely. He's a kindness influencer, and he was really curious, Joe, because you're into buses. And so he actually had a practical question. So he was wondering, if in the people industry, has it been a complete recovery because of COVID, or are there things that have permanently changed? And I find that question really interesting, because I don't know. I'll be honest. I guess I have ridden a bus in the airport, but I haven't been on a bus traveling in a city.
So I think when when he asked that question, because I watched that podcast, when he asked that question, I had to think, because at that time, so many people in the industry were not only afraid, but confused, right? We were all confused about the information that was ever changing. So have we recovered from prior to COVID? No. No one in this industry has recovered prior to COVID to get the numbers back prior to COVID. Did we learn some things, and did something become permanent? Absolutely. We learned a lot. And what became permanent is a heightened sense of awareness of what we do. If we have 55 people in a bus, whether it be in a charter bus, a coach bus, or if you have 150 people in a public transit bus, how are you going to ensure that we're taking care of the bus the way it should? And so what happened is that everyone's cleanliness amped up. Every company in the industry doubled down on cleaning crews and on making sure that we hit proper cleaning procedures. That has stood permanently. That has not changed, because we want people to come back. We want to come back to the industry. We want to be able to say, hey, the best and safest way is on a bus. And so to to our friend who was on the podcast last week, there's my answer. It did change. The numbers still haven't recovered, but the priority of having the cleanest, safest buses, that is what changed. And that is what I'm bringing to the table. And I can tell you that is what Greyhound does today.
Oh, I love that. I'm gonna have to check out a Greyhound bus for sure. Maybe when I'm in Miami next time, I'll see if I'll go try to find them and let you know. That's incredible. So next week, Joe, I have Ed Burns on my podcast. And in fact, you know why I got connected to Ed Burns? He's the CEO of Burns Logistics, but he really caught my eye because he wrote about sandcastles. And I was really intrigued about it. And he told me that all good things must come to an end like a sandcastle. And that really struck me. So I'm having him on my podcast next week. What do you think we should ask him?
Well, I think I would want to know from Mr. Burns regarding his sandcastles, right? A sandcastle, yes, it is true that all good things come to an end like a sandcastle that gets blown away. What are you doing to rebuild the next one?
Oh, that's a great question. Let's ask him that. Let's ask him that. Oh my gosh, look at Tim Gleason now. He's in from Australia.
Wow.
He's on his way on the bus. He's surfing for cancer this month. Tim
Way to
Gleason.
go, Tim.
He is. He's out there surfing and raising money. I love that. He raised money for he dedicated one of his surfs to my mom. So I appreciate that, Tim. Awesome. I love that. All right, Joe, leave us all with some lasting words today of advice. Tell everyone where they can find you. What do you want to leave your lasting words to be on this Valentine's Day special?
Okay, so here it is. You can find me on all social media platforms, particularly on LinkedIn, Joe Fernandez, Regional Safety Manager for Greyhound. Here's what I want to leave you. Safety is not just a word. Safety is not just something that you type out. Safety is about a human connection. It's about being kind and making certain that when that operator leaves, they always remember how kind you were with the message of safety. Happy Valentine's.
Happy Valentine's. Thank you, Joe. We'll see you all next week. Thanks for joining us today. Have a great Valentine. See you all.